everybody, Dr. Greco here. Welcome to Ministry in a Minute, the Crossroads School of Ministry. So, first week of the new year, we've been talking about the one thing, making Jesus your one thing. And what does that look like, and how do we do that? Folks, we've moved through this story of Mary and Martha, and we've talked about how Mary just sat at Jesus' feet, but Martha was preoccupied by all the things in her life. Folks, I want to share with you, it's Friday, I want to close out this idea with the last sentence that Jesus said in this scripture. It says, Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Now, I think that's a promise in the Bible that we often miss. You know, we want the promise of stuff. You know, we like the blessings. We like Deuteronomy 27, where if you do what God says, He promises to bless you. Yeah, give me some blessings. I cannot think of a more important blessing than the presence of God. And what Jesus says there is that if you give me your first fruits. You know, in the Old Testament, they talked about the first 10%. It wasn't just any 10%. You gave your first to God. Your firstborn animal or child was dedicated to God. Your first harvest came to God. God says, if you give me your first, seek first my kingdom and my righteousness. Make Jesus your one thing. Let Him define who you are and how you are and what you do and who and how you minister. Let Him define your whole life. Make Him the one thing that centers everything else. With that comes the promise of His presence. It'll never be taken away. That's the peace that transcends understanding. That's the kind of security all of us are searching for, but really only God has sovereignty over. And eventually, what does it come from? Not just going through the motions, not just following the rules legally, but making Jesus your one thing. You know, in Ephesians chapter 5, it likens our relationship with God to a marriage. And I can tell you that when you put your spouse first, your marriage is likely to go very well. When you worry about the fact that your spouse isn't meeting your needs and you put yourself first, that's when you have trouble. It's the same thing with God. You put Him first, and He meets every need. You put Him first, He'll be your one thing, and it'll never be taken away. We'll see you next week for more Ministries in a Minute.